Hi, I'm Melana of Melana On The Path, A Journey into the Light. Welcome to my podcast series, The Path Channeled Lectures. We continue this lecture series with What Color is My Pain, Part 3. What is self-love? What does it mean, and how important is it that we do it? Just as Chakra taught me over 20 years ago the truth about love and the power and necessity of loving the self, he both poses and answers these questions in great detail in Part 3 of this lecture series. Our journey with Chakra on this path of personal and racial discovery continues as we begin at the beginning and examine our relationship with the spiritual aspect of our being. It really is amazing how clear it becomes that in order to heal anything about ourselves or our cultures, the medicine we need is love. Love heals our relationship with spirit, ourselves, our cultures, each other, our planet, and with God. Once I had this flash of energy. It was an excitement and urgency about the true reality of love. It made itself known to me in the following phrase: love. You just gotta do it. This fabulous, amazing, dynamic, and brilliant energy is God's most precious gift to humankind. It's logical and magical, mysterious and forthcoming, and the greatest opportunity we have been blessed with to experience and understand the truth about who we are, how we came to be, and the purpose of our walking a human life. I know I sound like a zealot. I probably am one. All I can say for sure is that love has a mighty hold on my heart. Listen, enjoy, and learn.
Love is the gift of spirit. Love is your ally. Love is what creates wholeness within a being. If a being has squelched or not acknowledged that aspect of themselves, then they are not walking in wholeness. One of the ways to really get it, that this is so, is to ask human beings what do they know about loving themselves. First things first, how to love yourself. If spirit were guiding from the very inception of a being's walk on the planet, the first thing would be loving yourself. Love would be the first thing you get taught, since love is what the whole planet is about. And loving yourself would be the first thing on the agenda, so that you would then understand how to love everything and everyone else. That was the plan, so to speak. But human beings decided to do it differently. They decided to pick love up somewhere down the road. They decided that they would allow for groups and organizations to have control over the spiritual aspect. So they would honor spirit to a certain degree. Human beings realized that they didn't know. They didn't think they got here all by themselves, because none of them could figure out how it was all done, intellectually speaking. The greatest scientists, the greatest physicists could not quite get it about how this was all done, so everyone shows up here like they do, being born and all of that. There had to be an original plan. This had to have started from something, and because human beings could not figure out how it all got started, they decided that they would give spirit that territory, this spiritual aspect. And in order to not let it get out of hand, this kind of fantasy place where you have to rely on something you can't see, they decided that organized religion, places of control, would be best in order to handle the spiritual aspects of themselves and others. And that you didn't spend your whole life paying attention to that, because once it got started, then, it was rolling quite well. Human beings could take it from there. But to pay homage to the one who gave it its beginning, you designated a time out of your schedules to go and pray and to acknowledge that this aspect did exist. And to some degree that this aspect was very, very powerful, and that this aspect was to be thanked and could be asked for things. This is all done somewhere between the human being and some place outside of the human being, some place given over to handle the spiritual aspect of self. This wasn't entirely how it was planned. The original plan was that every human being would have that spiritual aspect within themselves awakened, that their relationship to spirit and to the creator of all of this would be a one-on-one experience. Because every being, that spiritual aspect of every being, carries with it all the truth and all the knowledge of one would call the creator. There is no need to allow someone else to do your praying. No need to allow someone else to tell you what Spirit says, primarily because each one of you are indeed Spirit yourselves. You already know this. You have the ability to know it. You have to know it now, because you have no choice. There's nowhere else to go but home to Spirit within yourselves and wake up. Part of this healing process is this awakening process. Awakening to who you are and awakening to the love that you are. Love is what's going to heal racism. It does not mean that love will allow for the white culture to realize that the people of color are equal. It doesn't mean that love is going to allow for the people of color to forgive the white culture for their mistake. It's not going to work that way. Because if that were the case, we would still be missing a very basic element. And it is about the white culture learning to love themselves, the black culture, the red culture, the yellow cultures learning to love themselves. And this is what I mean, that you cannot get this from each other. This is something you're going to have to get for yourselves. This is something you're going to have to heal within yourselves. No one can give you this. You came with it already. No one can give you your love for yourself. You have to get it from yourself. The cultures have to get their love for themselves from themselves. This is the healing that has to occur. The white culture has to sit with themselves and ask some very important questions and face some very important truths. The basic question for them is, if they really love themselves, why would they have felt the need to make other people less than themselves so that they would feel okay and strong and powerful? That the very fact that they could not bear other cultures to be equal because it made them feel less gives you an idea of how much they suffer from their own lack of love. The white culture needs to love itself. It needs to see spirit within itself. It needs to see its own good, its own value. It needs to see how afraid it was that it was not chosen. The very culture that claims to be the only one chosen was the culture that carried the most fear about not being chosen, about not being loved. Look what love or the fear of not having it made them do. How distorted they behave, all in the name of love or not having it. The beings of color need to love themselves. Where was their love for themselves when another culture made the decision, because of their own lack of self-love, that these beings were not lovable? If they had their own love for themselves, Do you think they would have bought that story? This is a very sensitive area. Let me explain a little deeper. A person of color might come back and say, "Excuse me, bought that story? What choice did we have to buy the story?" They had everything. They came and they destroyed our people. They destroyed our lands. They enslaved our people. They had all the material things that made it possible for them to do this. What choice did we have? And I say this to you, you cultures of color. Had you had your love for yourself, this would not have been so. Had you had your love for yourself, this would not have been possible. So then we get to how powerful is love, that it could have stopped something like that from happening. Think about that. Evidence of the fact that the love of self was missing with the cultures of color. Even if, let's say, the white culture got a foothold in and destroyed people and destroyed some of the land, no one can destroy your love for yourself. No one can destroy your love for yourself. It's too powerful. No matter what your life is like, if you love yourself, you die loving yourself. Loving yourself is not something that is temporary. It is not something that is occasional. Loving yourself is being awakened to who you really are. And no one can take that away from you, no matter what they do to you. That's the one thing. That is the one thing they cannot take from you. It is in the very fabric of who you are as a spirit. It is unforgettable, unstealable. It is who you are. And when you see yourself, accept yourself, embrace yourself, and honor yourself in love, no one can take it away from you, no matter what they do. So you see, something was amiss because the cultures of color did not have that for themselves, did not have it for themselves, did not see spirit alive in themselves, did not see the power of love alive within themselves.